Introduction to the food service industry. In this lesson, you will categorize segments in the food service industry, identify factors that influence choice of location, and analyze the industry's economic and social significance.
The food service industry, lesson activity. An inspiring entrepreneur. Economic and social significance, lesson activity. Food services and the economy. Effect on the environment, summary. Select the table of contents icon, upper left, in the toolbar to view your location within the tutorial.
A typical family in the early 1900s would rarely go to restaurants for a meal. Today, both single people and families eat out on a fairly frequent basis. The average American eats out 4 times a week. This makes people highly dependent on the food service industry. The food service industry involves the practice of making, transporting, and serving food. All food outlets, from fine dining restaurants to fast food establishments, are part of the industry. The food service industry provides employment to millions of people and generates billions of dollars in revenue. In this lesson, you'll identify the types of food service operations. You'll also state the factors that influence trends in the food service industry. Then, you'll identify entrepreneurs who have influenced the growth of the food service industry. In addition, you'll state reasons for the social and economic significance of the food service industry. You'll also identify factors that influence the choice of location for a facility. Finally, you'll explain the effect of the food service industry on the environment.
The food service industry. There are 2 basic segments within the food service industry: commercial and non-commercial operations. We can also classify food service by price or service type, such as self-service, fine dining, etc. A commercial food service operation is generally in business to make a profit through food sales. The following is a list of commercial food service operations. Quick service. As the name suggests, these establishments offer quick, usually self-serve, service at moderate prices. Fast food restaurants, buffets, and takeout restaurants are examples of quick service restaurants. Full service. The main feature of these establishments is table service. Fine dining restaurants are expensive, however, they offer high-quality food and attentive service. Catering. This type of service provides food for special events, such as weddings and business conferences. Lodging restaurants and bars. Many hotels offer restaurants, room service, and bars for their guests. Others. Public cafeterias, ice cream shops, and frozen yogurt stands are all part of commercial food service operations. Non-commercial food service operations focus on non-sales related food missions. Their goal is simply to provide nutritional meals. The food costs may be subsidized by the company, federal or state government, or an organization. Non-commercial food service operations include the following: educational institutions, snacks and meals served at child care centers, school cafeterias, and summer camps, as well as sports events. Concession stands fall under this category. In-house staff may manage the service, self-operated, or contract the service to an outside company. Health care. This category includes hospitals, assisted living facilities, and retirement homes. Food services are highly specialized because they must cater to individual patients' specific dietary requirements. Providing food is secondary to taking care of the patients. Employers. Many companies and organizations offer some type of food service to their staff, such as a cafeteria, snack bar, etc. Other. This category includes food service facilities at military institutions, prisons, and private clubs like country clubs, health clubs, and sports clubs. The category also includes food service operations at recreational centers, such as theaters, cruise ships, amusement parks, and sports facilities, and at transportation centers, such as airports, railroad stations, and bus terminals. Importance of the food service industry. Restaurants have an important place in American lives and in the economy. Every year, numerous restaurants open to provide food and drinks. They help people connect and build social relations. One of the important factors that led to the growth of the food service industry is urbanization. The majority of the U.S. population lives in cities. Due to high population density in certain cities, many people live in small apartments with tiny kitchenettes and no dining or living room space. In such circumstances, restaurants become kitchens and dining rooms for these individuals. Globalization is another factor that helped in the growth of the food service industry. With the trend of outsourcing production of goods and services to countries where land and labor is cheaper, restaurants are the only service industry whose operations aren't outsourced to another country. The reason for this is because the ingredients arrive at the kitchen in the morning and are then prepped through the day to serve customers in the evening. Outsourcing these operations would lead to a deterioration in food quality and dissatisfaction among customers. A customer Restaurants help in shaping neighborhoods and cities as well. In urban areas of the United States, people dine more outside rather than at home. Even people hooked into their mobile phones and the internet enjoy the experience of social interaction. Hence, city governments plan neighborhoods to have retail stores, restaurants, parks, and so on. The restaurant industry also serves as a big employer. There are numerous jobs available in this industry because it is constantly expanding and the operations can't be outsourced. The National Restaurant Association estimates that nearly 15 million people will work in the industry by 2024. This increase in employment will benefit the economy significantly. Factors influencing the food service industry. The food service industry is constantly changing. Every 10 years, there is a change in the meals, desserts, drinks, etc., served in the industry. Even the concept of the drive-through came along well after the fast food industry began. The automobile industry had a major impact on the American lifestyle. Increased mobility allowed people to explore new locales, go on vacations, and pursue leisure activities like camping and fishing. An increasing number of automobile owners in the 1920s led to the need for inexpensive accommodations for motorists traveling long distances. This gave birth to the concept of motor inns, or motels built along highways and popular travel routes. These motels provided basic amenities to travelers. Later on, 18-wheeler trucks were invented to transport food nationwide. These huge trucks helped in the creation of fast food restaurants and in importing ingredients. Thus, even when seasons changed, a variety of foods were still available to people. Recent times have seen people becoming health and value conscious. You may have noticed this change in the food available at grocery stores and various food facilities. Such people make a conscious effort to exercise daily as well as eat healthy and nutritious food. For example, People consume soy milk instead of cow milk because it has a lower fat content. Thus, many companies have started developing healthier food products based on the preference for eating healthier. With a constant increase in income and both partners working outside the home, the need for faster and more convenient meals increased the demand for food service. People also started demanding high-quality gourmet food and unique dishes. The food truck industry has grown substantially over the past few years by serving gourmet food to consumers at reasonable prices. The industry also expects that there will be a continuing increase in the demand for locally grown fruits and vegetables and locally produced spirits and beverages. There is also an increase in the demand for various ethnic foods. This demand is driven by an increase in the number of immigrants to the United States. In 1893, the United States was giving away land, and thus people from all over came to the country. Today, modern immigrants form approximately 13% of the U.S. population. There is also an increase in spicy foods available in the United States due to the growing Hispanic, Asian, and Indian community. Fries are a common fast food in the United States. However, they were not invented here. They were first made in Belgium, but brought over to the United States by the French after the Franco-Austrian War. Fast food facilities then made the fries popular. Burgers originally were a fast, economical meal for people on the go, quickly cooked in front of them. It started out in fairs. It was thought of as low-quality, slider-style convenience food. It wasn't until White Castle opened the first franchise in 1921 in Kansas that it became a fast food symbol. After hearing soldiers talk of French fries, they began to construct and serve both. Many companies in the food service industry rely on advertising to promote their brand. These actions are due to the increasing competition in the industry. However, word of mouth continues to be the most important way to promote a restaurant. Burger and fries. Louis Sherry.
I'm sorry, I think I was recording when I thought it was paused. Let's begin again. Here we go.
Entrepreneurs in the food industry. Louis Sherry. Louis Sherry was an important restaurateur of the late 19th and early 20th century. He started his career in the food industry by working at a hotel in Montreal. Later on, he moved to many different states to work at different hotels. Over the years, he built contacts with several rich and influential people who promised to help him set up his own enterprise. In late 1881, he opened an ice cream and confectionery shop in New York. Eventually, his business expanded and his reputation grew each year. He followed a simple philosophy of providing good quality food. In 1890, he opened a new restaurant called Sherry, which became a significant threat to another established restaurant, called Delmonico, in the same area. Delmonico was a grand establishment known to hold some of the season's smartest dance affairs. In a short while, Sherry also became an important place to hold elite social gatherings. In 1919, Sherry had to shut down his restaurant due to a lack of polite staff. However, he later opened several more candy and pastry shops. A few years later, Louis Sherry Incorporated was formed. Today, Louis Sherry continues to be a prominent ice cream and candy brand. Raymond Albert Kroc. Raymond Albert Kroc was the entrepreneur behind the expansion of McDonald's from a local chain to a world-renowned franchise. In the early stages of his life, Kroc explored numerous career options, such as that of a paper cup salesman, pianist, and DJ. Later on, he settled for the position of a milkshake machine salesman. Kroc learned about the restaurant industry while traveling across the country for his job. During one of his trips, he stopped at the McDonald's restaurant in California. McDonald's was one of Kroc's clients, and the restaurant owned 8 milkshake machines. On seeing the efficiency with which the restaurant served a huge community, Kroc was convinced that he could sell the machine to every new McDonald's that opened. A few years later, Kroc presented a business plan of opening McDonald's franchises to the McDonald brothers, Richard and Maurice, and they accepted it. However, the terms of the contract were such that Kroc made minimal profits. So to gain more from his investment, he convinced the McDonald brothers to sell him the rights for their restaurant name. Kroc's idea of breaking down the food preparation process into steps that could be carried out at any of his restaurants with the help of assembly lines contributed significantly to his success. Colonel Sanders. Colonel Harland Sanders is the man who created the recipe for the world-famous Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. Before Colonel Sanders started KFC, he ran a famous Kentucky service station that served food. A few years later, he opened a restaurant across the street where he began selling fried chicken. In 1952, he shut down his restaurant and started looking for franchise partners to sell his fried chicken. He set out to travel across the country, visiting various restaurants along the way with the hope that they would sell his chicken. However, he was rejected more than 1,000 times before one restaurant said yes. Sanders received a nickel for every piece of chicken that was sold. He would send the restaurant packets of his secret spices and herbs so they couldn't learn the recipe. By 1964, Sanders had 600 franchises selling his fried chicken. Glenn Bell. Glenn Bell was the founder of Taco Bell. Prior to opening Taco Bell, he owned 3 hot dog stands. He was always looking out to sell alternative food items. Bell started selling tacos from the side window of one of his stands for 19 cents each. Previously, tacos required soft tortillas, which were tedious to make. He then came up with an idea of making fried taco shells, which did not take as much time to prepare. The taco shells became very successful among customers. After a few years, Bell and partners started Taco Tia, a Mexican chain of restaurants. He also started another chain of restaurants, called El Taco, with other partners. However, a few years later, Bell realized that he did not want to be answerable to his partners. So, he sold his stake in the restaurants. In 1962, he started Taco Bell in California, and then opened several more outlets in the following years. In 1978, Mr. Bell sold Taco Bell to PepsiCo for $130 million. Debbie Fields. Debbie Fields is the founder of Mrs. Fields Cookies. She was 20 years old when she started her business, and her store was originally called Mrs. Fields Chocolate Chippery. When Fields wanted to start her business, she found it very difficult to get a loan because the banks did not believe that her business would be successful. After a few failed attempts, one bank gave her a loan at an interest rate of 21%. On the first day of her business, nobody came to her store. So, she walked up to people on the streets and gave them samples. People liked her cookies, and she soon had regular customers. One of the biggest factors that helped Fields succeed in her business was making her customers feel special. She also believed that good quality ingredients were crucial for any dish. Mrs. Fields Cookies now has over 1,000 stores across 9 countries. The business turnover is more than $300 million per year. Martha Stewart. Today, Martha Stewart is a prominent household name. She is known for her cooking shows, magazines, recipe books, various household products, and so on. However, Stewart did not start her cooking business at an early age. She worked as a stockbroker on Wall Street for several years before she quit to start a catering business in 1976. Her unique recipes and art of visual presentation made her a success. The first book she published was Entertaining in 1982. This book was an instant success, and she published many more books such as Martha Stewart's Hors d'oeuvres, Weddings, and so on. She then started a monthly magazine called Martha Stewart Living. She also started a TV show with the same name. In 1997, she started the company Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia, MSLO, for all her publishing, broadcasting, and merchandising purposes. In 1999, her company was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. However, in 2001, she was arrested for insider trading when she sold a huge amount of shares and was eventually sentenced to 5 months of imprisonment. In 2007, she founded the Martha Stewart Center for Living at Mount Sinai Medical Center. Economic and Social Significance, Content Guide, Introduction, The Food Service Industry, Lesson Activity, An Inspiring Entrepreneur. Economic and Social Significance. The economic importance of the food service industry is measurable in terms of gross sales, total sales without deductions, in the industry, the amount people spend on food from outside their homes, and the employment opportunities offered by the industry. The food service industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry with estimated net sales of approximately $680 billion in 2014. This corresponds to an estimated 1.2% increase in the industry's sales over 2013, after adjusting for inflation. We can also observe the size of the industry by looking at the number of food service outlets available in the country. The United States has an estimated 990,000 restaurants, ranging from fine dining restaurants to fast food outlets. We can also measure the economic importance of the industry by estimating its contribution to the country's gross domestic product, GDP. GDP is an economic term referring to the measure of the value of all goods and services produced in a certain period. In the United States, food and beverage services are about 4% of the GDP. When we compare it with agriculture, which has a GDP contribution of approximately 1%, we can see how important the food service industry is to the country. A couple paying for a meal by credit card at a restaurant.
4% of the GDP? What?
The food service industry is playing an increasing role in food consumption habits in the United States. In 2012, the average American spent approximately 40% of their total food budget away from home. This is an increase of 15% since 1970. This amount has increased because many families now have 2 wage earners and little time to prepare food at home. Also, as incomes have risen, people became more willing to spend money on food prepared outside of the home. The amount of advertising for food and an increase in the number of fast food outlets also indicates how the industry has grown over time. Another measure of the purchasing power of U.S. households is in how much the average American spends on food in a year. For example, in 2014, the population of the United States was approximately 318 million people. The food service industry reported net sales of approximately $680 billion in that year. This corresponds to an average American spending approximately $2,100 per year on food from food service outlets. The food service sector is an important industry in the United States because it provides numerous employment opportunities. Over 2.5 million people work in the food industry. This is approximately 10% of the workforce in the United States. Servers make up the majority of employees in this industry, accounting for 2 million jobs. This is separate from cooks and servers who work at fast food restaurants. In 2013, the average yearly income for a supervisory role in this industry was approximately $30,000. Social significance. The food service industry also has social significance in the United States. Let's look at this significance. Fine dining restaurants hire trained chefs to create food of a very high quality. They spend years
Sorry, I forgot to highlight that very important answer that could possibly be on the test. Let's continue.
Fine dining restaurants hire trained chefs to create food of a very high quality. They spend years perfecting a menu. Customers go to such restaurants to sample these foods. Customers also go to various restaurants to taste cuisines from different cultures and regions of the world, like Chinese cuisine. Another reason why people go to restaurants is that they provide an appropriate ambience for celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, or holidays. Restaurants also give people a much-needed break from cooking and cleaning up their kitchens. This is especially true for people who prepare food at home on a daily basis. Restaurants and other food service outlets are also social meeting places. The meetings may be formal, a business meal with potential clients, or informal, meeting friends. Food services also provide assistance to the disadvantaged through organizations that distribute surplus food to people in need. Thus, it is a valuable service in our society. Even though people go to food service outlets on a regular basis, eating out often has drawbacks. Eating out regularly can be expensive. The food service industry has high production and overhead costs. A restaurant needs various serving and cooking staff members to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Besides paying staff for their service, restaurants have to pay common increases of ingredient costs. Another disadvantage is that the food available at some outlets, especially at fast food outlets, may not be as healthy as homemade food. You can meet your entire food requirement, in terms of calories, for the day during a single meal at a fast food restaurant. In addition, people tend to indulge themselves when eating out, leading to a higher calorie intake than required. As a habitual practice, an excessive intake in calories can lead to obesity and its associated problems. In the United States, rates of obesity have doubled in 20 years, both in adults and children. Obesity can lead to problems like type 2 diabetes, diabetes mellitus, which is a disease that prevents the body from properly metabolizing sugar. Fast foods also have a high fat content, which increases the risk of people having heart problems and strokes. Obesity is one of the factors driving up healthcare costs in the United States. Community factors play an important role for setting up food service facilities in different localities. Let's look at some of these factors. Demographics. While selecting the location for your facility, it is important to know the demographics of that location. Your target group may not be around the location of your facility. One of the most important demographic factors while choosing the locality for your facility is the age of your target group. Different age groups have different preferences. The type of facility you want to start will depend on these preferences. Younger people tend to enjoy what is trending, while older people tend to stick to the classics, or to eat what they know or like consistently. The population size of your facility's locality is also important. Ideally, an entrepreneur would prefer a locality that is densely populated. However, a small population does not necessarily mean that the business will fail. The income level of your target group is critical for your facility. For example, opening a fine dining restaurant in an area occupied by low-income residents will not help your business succeed.
This section here, crime rates, will discuss that it is preferable to open a service facility in an area with low crime rates. Therefore, if there's incidences of crime, your business could fail, no matter how good it is or the quality of the service.
Accessibility. The locality of your facility should be accessible to all. If the area is accessible, it will attract a lot of customers. Business areas as well as residential areas are good options to start your food service business. There should be public transport around that area so that even people who do not own vehicles can visit the facility. Also, there should be ample parking space available so that those who can drive will have an easy time getting into the facility. Crime rates. It is preferable to open a food service facility in an area with a low crime rate. An area with a low crime rate will make your customers feel safe and not have to worry about being attacked. However, there are some successful facilities in areas where the crime rate is high. Current trends and attitudes. Consumers' trends and attitudes are constantly changing. This change is influenced by factors such as age, income, lifestyle, opportunities, professions, social media, news, and so on. For example, people are becoming more health conscious because most professionals have a sedentary work life. So, they prefer to eat healthy and nutritious food and to exercise regularly. Hence, it is important that you stay aware of the latest trends and attitudes to meet the ever-changing demands of consumers. Effect on the environment. Effect on the environment. The food service industry has a significant impact on our environment. So, it is important that organizations take precautionary steps to reduce the harmful impact that their services have on the environment. In addition, federal and local officials offer incentives to organizations for demonstrating environmentally friendly behaviors. In the food industry, there is a huge amount of solid waste generated every day. When ordering ingredients, entrepreneurs should avoid over-ordering. Ordering only the necessary quantities will ensure the freshness of ingredients and also reduce the quantity of waste generated. In early 2015, France set a law banning supermarkets from throwing away or destroying unsold food. Instead, they have to donate it to a charity. If they don't follow this law, they have to pay a heavy fine and can even face imprisonment. The packaging materials used by food packagers often incorporate wax-coated or corrugated cardboard. These materials aren't recyclable, and thus are responsible for much of the waste. So, packagers should make an effort to use recyclable packaging material. They also should use less material to package their food. The food service industry also consumes a lot of energy. Most restaurants have large refrigerators that emit a huge amount of chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. These emissions, along with high energy consumption, are harmful to the environment. To protect the environment, entrepreneurs in the food industry can use the following equipment: high-efficiency heating, ventilation, and cooling, HVAC, equipment. Equipment with Energy Star ratings. High-efficiency lighting program. Daylight sensors. Recyclable containers. Entrepreneurs should also take care that their facility does not waste water, because it is a limited resource. For this purpose, they can install low-flow faucets and toilet flushes. They can even implement a water recycling system. Summary, Content Guide.
In this lesson, you learned about commercial and non-commercial food operations. You then learned about the role of the food service industry in an economy. Important entrepreneurs who contributed to the growth of the food service industry in the United States include Louis Sherry, Raymond Albert Kroc, Harlan Sanders, Glenn Bell, Debbie Fields, and Martha Stewart. The food service industry makes a substantial contribution to the economy. It also plays an important role in people's social lives. You also learned that the location for setting up a food service facility will depend on demographics, accessibility, crime rate, and current trends. Finally, you learned that the food service industry also affects the environment. Food service entrepreneurs should ensure that they are doing their bit to protect the environment.
Congratulations, you have completed the tutorial. Introduction to the food service industry.